So, Joel, what are your thoughts on the American church sending missionaries into third world countries?
I think it's a joke. I think modern missions is really a joke. It's not serious. You see, let me get this straight. I've been personally impacted by foreign missionaries coming to India. In fact, I became a Christian, was baptized by an Australian missionary who literally risked his life by baptizing me, because if that man's been threatened, that man has been, in various different ways, his life has been at risk because of the mission work that he's been doing in India. By the way, still in India, so many years later, his kids have moved out. So just him and his wife. Big shout out to Mark and Celia.
Wow.
Thank you for investing in me, sharing the gospel, being amazing role models of what it looks like to be missionaries. But that's not what we see in modern missions. See, gone are the days when people packed all their belongings in coffins and moved to a part of the world where they were willing to preach the gospel till they died. We don't have that anymore. At least I've not heard of that. I've not seen it lately. I'm still influenced by the missionaries like David Livingstone, who went to Africa and preached the gospel in such a way that after he died, the people didn't want to send his body back to England. So they after being forced, they finally took his heart out and buried it in Africa and sent the body back, because they said his heart belonged to the people of Africa. William Carey in India, went there, preached the gospel every single year, not one convert. And I think it took him 7 years for finally one person to give their life to Jesus. And he ends up burying his son over there in this foreign land. He loses his wife. Tremendous torture that he went through to get the gospel across. When you think about Adoniram Judson to Burma, these were missionaries who really had a passion for the message of Jesus. And they really had a heart for the lost. And they were willing to go there and spend the rest of their life serving these people. What we have today in the church that we call missions is more like a vacation for a week or two. And I believe, now this might come as a shock, but I believe that modern missions is the golden calf in the church. Because it's easy for us to preach a knee-jerk message, trying to get people to feel sorry for these malnourished kids in these third world countries, and it's easy for us to raise money, and we feel so good about ourselves.
Yeah.
No, this really irritates me in this side of the world, because we have this, like as if we're the Messiah for the lost world.
Yeah.
No, I don't have the nail-scarred hands in my hand. Jesus is the Savior. And no matter how much humanitarian work I do in third world countries, that's not going to save people. What's really going to bring people to the knowledge of Jesus is when we go with a fired up passion to see the lost found in Jesus. We don't have that anymore. Moreover, in these third world countries that we send people to, do you not think that there are pastors and evangelists in that own country? There are. In India, there's only a 2% population of Christians.
Wow.
2% among billion people. And out of those 2%, I personally know people who are fired up pastors who left everything to follow Jesus and to share the message. I know people who are church planters, evangelists. These people are crazy about the gospel, who are willing to lay down their life in sharing the gospel. So what's the cure? What do we do then? Because the Great Commission is to take the message into the ends of the world. You see, if we're living in a nation where we're blessed financially, instead of taking 13, 14, teenagers to a third world country and tell them that they're missionaries, we should rather be sending that money to support these pastors' children, man. Pay for those children's education. Because most of these people need to have 2-3 jobs to support themselves and run a church. Take care of their financial needs. Equip these people to be who God's calling them to be in their locality. Moreover, when we go as foreigners into these third world countries with this gospel, we actually disrupt the culture. And we bring this Christianity that seems like for you to be a Christian, you got to have this long hair or piercings or a suit and a tie, whatever it is. And we begin to disrupt culture. And I think that's why in India, Christians are hated, because we're looked at as people who are disrupting culture. So what do we do? What's the answer then in our churches today for us to still be involved in the Great Commission and for us to not, ruin the message of Jesus in these other parts of the world? I think we need to start realizing that the problem is not out there in these third world countries. The problem is right here in our own hometowns. The problem is in our apartments. The problem is in our churches. The problem is in our families. The problem is in our workplace. The problem is in our circle of influence. Before we try to get the gospel out there to those people who need it, we need to have a heart for the lost. That's where we are right here, right now. Now, there are some people who God is very specifically going to call to reach certain communities. More power to you, man. And I pray that God will bless you and give you the passion to pack your belongings and go and to bring people like me to Jesus. If you're an Australian moving to India, bro, all the best, man. God bless you with that. That's a I get goosebumps when I think about it, if God's calling someone to that. But before we get off on a flight and go off on a 2-week journey, maybe we need to pray and consider if we should send that money to a pastor in a local area and ask God to give us a passion for the lost in our own communities. Yeah. You see, every blood-bought believer is called to be an evangelist. We don't need to wait to go to a third world country to be an evangelist. We need to be an evangelist now. God will not call you to do something full-time if you're not doing it part-time. Similarly, if you're not sharing the gospel in your own neighborhood, you're not going to do it in a third world country. And if you end up doing it in a third world country, they're going to see right through it and know that you're fake, and your gospel is going to be lies and not going to be truth. My heart, my joy, what I want to see is every single person that comes to a church that is sitting on the pews under a stained glass window will leave the church fired up to see at least one person brought to Jesus in their lifetime. Yeah. Wouldn't that be great mission work? Yeah. If every single person who believes that Jesus has saved them, has died for them, goes out into the community with a passion for the lost to see at least one person coming to know Jesus in their own lifetime. Yeah. That's what I think about missions.